What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Savage. Much love, much respect every time you tap in with me. Today's video is going to be a straight banger. Not necessarily a celly nightmare, but if you think about it, did happen in the cell. I believe the cellmate did it. But just tune in. Don't click off. Just tune in. Listen to this story, man. It's a trip. It'll blow you away. At the very least, it'll make you scratch your head like, damn, how did that happen? So Mr. I'm going to say his name is James Leonard Osuna. I don't think it's pronounced Acuna, but it's Acuna is his last name. An inmate at Richard J. Donovan State Prison. It's one of the more modern prisons. A lot of people go there for medical treatment. They house a lot of hepatitis having inmates or inmates with AIDS. But however, they do have yards and plenty of blocks just for regular inmates, both GP and S and Y. Now, whether he was S and Y or GP, I'm not sure. This happened in 2017. Basically, he was found decomposed in his cell after 3 days. Underneath a blanket. The COs originally thought that it was a sewage problem. That's how bad the odor became. His cellmate, we'll get into his cellmate. But before we get into this video, I'm going to need you guys to smash that like button one time for your boy. Subscribe to the channel if you ain't subscribed. And when you do subscribe, or if you do subscribe, hit that little bell icon right next to the subscription button, because that will give you the live notifications every time I do drop a video. Anyways, let's get on this. So the last time the cops saw him alive and kicking was playing soccer. That's what they reported. He was 58 years old. He was playing soccer. He had cirrhosis of the liver. Now, there's a lot of little factors to this. So I got the reference right here. I'm going to be sure that I check in on it, because there's a lot of different things that I do want to touch on. For the simple fact, you would possibly think, man, how did he die from cirrhosis? 58 years old. Did he have a stroke? What was the issue? Before we get into that, let's discuss what was up with his cellmate, right? Now, his cellmate was a lifer who was in prison for killing his own father, right? He killed his own father. We will talk about how he killed his father and all the details a little bit later, but we'll just say right now he was a lifer in prison, and he was in the cell with the dead body decomposing for 3 days that had the strongest odor. Now, when I tell you more about a cellie, then you can make your judgments and draw your opinions and go from there. But we'll start slow and we'll keep it at a suspenseful rate, okay? So, cellies decomposing. These are some of the things that are going wrong here. They have four standing counts every day in California State Prison. That means when they walk by and they do the rounds, the COs, the cops, the guards, the ones with the keys, you have to get off your bunk. You have to get off your bunk. You have to stand up. They have to count you. They have to see breathing, live breathing flesh. That's what they have to see before they can move on to the next cell. So 4, 8, 12. 12 counts in 3 days managed to miss the fact that there was a man decomposing on a bunk underneath a blanket. Now, if that's not bad enough, there was another protocol breach that went on that was really, in my opinion, I don't know. I think they just really don't care at this spot. They must really not care. This man received at least 3 or 4 different types of medication. I will include the link to the whole website article in the description. Go read it. Check it out. Have some fun. Enjoy it. It's a really good read. Pretty crazy. So when you have pills, and he had cirrhosis from Hep C, so he's getting medication for that. Now, when they autopsied his body, they couldn't find any medication from that. They found traces of the antidepressants he took, the sleeping medication. They didn't find any Hep C medication. So is it a possibility that he didn't get medication for Hep C while having cirrhosis? Not likely. It's not likely, but you can't really say much because he didn't have that he didn't have traces of that, any type of Hep C treatment. They got the Harvoni, they got the I don't even know if they're still using them old ones they did, but they still have different types of medication that they administer. They couldn't find any. So you be the judge of that one. You let me know. Nonetheless, let's back it up. Let's reverse. When you get pills, when you get medications, any type of anything like that, you have to get out of your cell. Typically, you have to go, unless you're in the hole or the shoe, they bring it straight to your door. They open the tray slot, they give you a little cup, you take it, open your mouth. But other than that, you got to go out there to the pill call where the nurse stands in front of the podium and you got to take your meds. And the nurse will be right there accompanied by a CO. For those 3 days, he obviously didn't take his meds. He obviously didn't even go to the tray slot to get his meds or go to the podium, to say the very least. However, why did they document that he was given his medication? How was that documented? You know, like, that right there is almost, well, it is. It's a lie, you know. But it's like they could have easily have marked, you know, missed meds, didn't show up, refused. But instead, they wrote that he received his medication. Received. Now, they're real tight-lipped about this whole case. Everyone's been tight-lipped. The psychiatric department has all been tight-lipped about it. CDCR has been tight. Of course, they've been tight-lipped. No one's saying nothing. All they will let you know, right, is that this man who was disregarded by everybody, nurses, and he wasn't a chomo, he wasn't a rapist, nothing like that. You know, he had, I mean, all legitimate crimes his whole life from the 80s. This man who was disregarded, though, as a human being, or protocol-wise, they say that they could not locate any of his next of kin. His actual listed next of kin on the paper was CDCR, was Donovan. That was his next of kin, because they could not locate or get a hold of any family. So they try to say in the article, which you'll read, is that CDC unceremoniously cremated him and spread his ashes at the sea. This man's ashes are somewhere at an In-N-Out dumpster. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere at a liquor store. In the back of a liquor store, you know, someone's using them as kitty litter. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to believe that CDCR went and spread his ashes in the sea? Come on. They couldn't even do a count to see if he was standing alive. The nurses couldn't even see if he was taking his pills. But yet we're supposed to believe that you took his ashes out. Cut it out. They claimed his body, dumped his ashes in a trash bag, and that's it. No more James Leonard Acuna, or Acuna, whatever his last name was. They did. That's how they did him. So, anyways, let's take it back, right? So now let's look into what the Cellmate's story is, right? Now let's peep out exactly what the Cellmate situation is, because his body was so decomposed, no one could find out what the cause of death was. So what do you think the coroner? I said the foreigner. What do you think the coroner is going to list the death as? I'm just being legit, straight up. What do you think the coroner is going to list the death as if they cannot see, they cannot find? They listed it as undetermined. So the Cellmate's like, cool, you know, I mean, whether he did or didn't do it, that's always a thumbs up, right? To not really be dragged into something, because you already know he's in the hole during he's probably still in the hole during the investigation, right? What they did say, though, after, you know, listing him as undetermined, what they did say was that there was, nothing could be completely ruled out, because there were small signs of blunt force trauma to the head and I think other body parts. But either way, there was just, you know, who knows, maybe he got into a fight, you know, but it was never enough to actually label it or list it as a homicide. That's a plus for the Cellmate. What blows me away about this case is how private and under wraps they've kept the Cellmate. I cannot find his name. They won't say his name. Maybe you guys can. Maybe I'm missing something. Even the prison that they transferred him to is private. I don't understand. I mean, they give everyone else. They said something in the article about due to privacy issues or his privacy. I didn't even know it could go down like that. I didn't know you can claim privacy or whatever. So that must be what he did. So let's get into the Cellmate now. Let's cover the topic of exactly who the Cellmate is, and I'm gonna give you every little detail that's gonna make you laugh. Don't rush to your conclusions. Don't just jump right into being like, oh, he must be guilty now because this all looks this way, or he must not be guilty because there was no evidence. Factor it all in. Listen to what I'm saying. Read the article, then draw your conclusion, man. And then let me know in the comments if you still want to come back, double back, and we can have a little conversation about this. The Cellmate was already in prison for murder, right? He had murdered his own father. And maybe that's not a big deal, but it's It's the factors to how they found him, his dad, that might make you scratch your head. So when he murdered his father, he wasn't found. He was left decomposed. Two common denominators: decomposition. Decomposed under a mattress, his father. So already there's two similarities. I don't know if you can definitely connect the dots or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Those are pretty similar situations. So you look more into the cellmate, into the character of what this guy is, what has his time been about, or whatever. He had already killed a previous cellmate of his in Kern County. Now that's what it says. That's what he told a psychiatrist, that he had already previously done that. And it happens. You kill your cellmate, they give you some time in the shoe. You know, you're single cell for a minute, but due to overpopulation, you're going to be getting a cellie pretty soon. We all know that doesn't make sense. We all know that that's not justifiable. And we all know that it's going to lead to another man losing his life by doing that. But they do it regardless because I guess they feel they have to, or just they don't care. You got to understand, the bigwigs aren't the ones responsible for who sells up with who. It comes to a smaller circle, which is just the prison guards, sergeant, captain. Rarely ever goes above that. Lieutenant, you know what I mean? Rarely ever goes above that to sell up. So these guys are using their own discretion, right? The same discretion that they had with Jamie Osuna and Luis Romero when they sell them up, right? A man who is admitted to being hungry for blood, to wanting to kill another inmate, they gave him a cellie. So another man was entrusted with their discretion, and that's the problem right there. So he had already killed another cellmate. He had left his father under a mattress decomposing, and that's how they found his dad. So you sit there and you're like, well, how was his actions recently or leading up until the discovery of the body? Okay, well, that was reported too. His actions, there was an inmate who reported that he actually tried to go check on Mr. James Osuna or Acuna. And when he went up to the door, cellmate comes up and says, hey, turn around, you know, homie's got the flu right now. We're just trying to keep it under wraps. You know what I mean? Inmate backs off. Okay. No one wants to be around the flu. When the flu spreads in prison, everyone's screwed. Everyone's going to get it. It's just the worst to have the flu in prison. So, okay, cool. That was enough to get the other inmate to back the hell off. CO comes. It's reported he don't even let the COs check on his cellmate. How is that not a red flag, though? What part about that is not a red flag to cops? I remember I spent 10 years in that place. I mean, there was a few times, yeah. There was a few times. There was hundreds of times where their standing count walk, they didn't even pay attention to it. Like, they just... They have a little thing on the door where they beep as they do their count. They literally would run. Literally would run to see how fast they could hit the beeps. And the beep, I mean by that, because when they tap the door, it makes a beep. The metal hits the metal, and it's so loud, so obnoxious. But they beep, 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 it ran. Didn't even look in the window. That's happened over hundreds of times. But when a CO actually was like, hey, I need to see your cellie, man, maybe a handful of times, 2 handfuls of times, I was able to be like, hey man, you know, he's sleeping, or I'm taking a bird bath, you know what I mean? That's most likely what he did, was like, either I'm taking a shit or I'm taking a bird bath. Because you have to have your curtain closed for your cellmate. And the cops are like, they're not trying to get all up and see your dick and your ass. I mean, it's not that serious to them. They're like, he's just taking a shower. That's almost definitely what he did. But if he did anything other than that, the man is a smooth talker. He's a finesser. He finessed these guys right out of their job, because although they won't say nothing and they're being hush-mouthed about this, I'm pretty sure they fired the shit out of that psychiatrist, out of the COs, out of the lieutenants, out of everyone else involved. I'm pretty sure they all got fired for just negligence. Now, the investigation, I'm sure, is very deep. The CDCR, the OIG, and everyone else is saying that no one's really giving him anything. Obviously, the cellmate's not going to tell on himself and catch any more time than he already has, but he's already doing life. I don't know what his angle is, but at the end of the day, you guys have to be the judge, right? Like, You know all the facts just like I do. You have every single little piece of information that I do. And if you read the article, you'll see. I'm going to give you guys my personal thoughts on the matter. And it's going to be what it is. We're going to close here. Drop in the comment section whatever you think. You think I'm wrong? That's fine. You let me know. I think he either smothered, strangled, or maybe just knocked him out and then smothered him. A real easy one. You know, he's an older dude. They probably got into some little argument. He probably don't even like the whole authority figure. Dude probably reminded him of his dad. You just never know. I think he killed him, though. I think that he let him decompose there under the blanket. And that was probably the smartest thing he can do. He could have done is just to let his body rot and let it decompose. And it worked. Did it work with his dad? I'm not sure. I don't know if that played out the same way. I don't even know why his identity so hidden. What prison he went to is hidden. But whoever this guy is who did this stuff, all I do know is that he played him out smoothly. Now what he needs to understand is that karma is a bitch, man. Karma always comes around. Come on. How many dudes get blasted, whacked, killed, and everything? Those are the guys who have bodies under their belt. Those are the guys who have spent years stabbing, whacking, ordering people to get stabbed, ordering people to stab people. Those are the guys who ride the wave of the fame and the rep and all that until they end up completely dead or filled with holes. That's the way karma works. So I can tell you this much. If any of his family members are out there watching, I know you guys couldn't be located. I don't even know if he has any family, but you live by the sword and you die by the sword. That's just the way life goes. I mean, you guys got to get out. Stop. You know what I mean? Pull out of that lifestyle. I know firsthand that karma's real, man. And maybe he had his own karma coming. That's why he died. It's a crazy cycle of repetitious cannibalism that takes place, especially in prison. But let's highlight one last final thing before we do close. CDCR, they are hush-mouthed, tight-lipped, and everything. They do not want to accept accountability. This happened in 2017. If anyone has an update, feel free to give me the update. Feel free to give me the name of the cellmate who killed him. Maybe I could have done a better, more thorough search. I'm telling you, after just checking out this story briefly, it's crazy because I paroled in 2018, May 9th. And I didn't really hear about this, but I wasn't in Donovan then again, so... And you know, everywhere else I was, there was already deaths and everything going on around there. So it's like, man, I couldn't focus on anything that was going on over here. But I just thought it was a story that was very intriguing for the simple fact that CDCR literally let this man decompose. Nurses, let this man decompose. Psych techs, let this man decompose. Claimed his body and put his ashes in the sea, spread them in the... Come on. These CEOs laugh. They get off on doing disrespectful things to us when they can, you know. So, come on. That would have been the perfect time for them to just pour it on the floor and, you know, stomp all over it or spit on it. Because why would they care? They didn't care to see if he was alive. You mean to tell me you care to go drive all the way out to a beach and spread his ashes? Please. Let's hold CDCR accountable. Let's make sure that all these cops lost their jobs. Let's make sure that this doesn't happen again and they actually do standing counts. I used to hate standing counts, man. I like to watch my TV. I don't like to have to jump off my bunk every 5 minutes for a damn standing count. But you know what? It keeps people alive. Let's make sure they hold themselves accountable, and let's make sure that they are actually making inmates stand up and show that they are alive. Much love, much respect. I hope you guys like this story, man. Those